Okay, so what I want to do today, ladies, is I want to do some Esther, and then I want to do some stuff on Parshat Zachor, which is tomorrow.
This is Ashley's Parsha.
This today. But before we do any of that, did we discuss anything about Zayin Adar?
No.
Nothing at all. So today is Zayin Adar. What is Zayin Adar? Correct. So the Gemara tells us that when Haman,
Want to do some Esther?
I'm reflecting on myself. That when Haman did this this lottery to see what date he was going to do this destruction of the Jewish people, so it came out in the month of Adar, and it says that Haman was mesamech, was b'simcha gedola. He was so happy. Why was he so happy? Because the month of Adar is the month in which Moshe Rabbeinu died. He knew that, which is interesting in itself that he knew that. Okay, so he knows that. So so it's because that in the old days they knew things. You know, the people had advisors and they knew what was going on. He was attacking the Jewish people, so he wanted to find out where the weak points are.
It also obviously means that Yortzat was commemorated
And
a special day.
Something about the day.
Yeah.
So there's something about the day. So they're trying to understand what that day is. So at the same time, the Gemara says, well, the fact that it was Moshe Rabbeinu's Yortzat wasn't what he didn't know is that it was also Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday. Okay, so Moshe Rabbeinu is the only person really at 120 years complete, from day to day, done. Okay, on the day that Moshe Rabbeinu is dying, but no, he lost. Yeah, so Moshe Rabbeinu on the day of his birthday or the day of his death is standing in front of the Jewish people and giving them his final speech, right? And what happens is on that day, he takes a Sefer Torah, the Sefer Torah that he's written, and the way the Midrash describes it, he gives it to the Levium, because they're going to be the progenitors of Torah for the Jewish people. And Am Yisrael come to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Midrash describes, and say that's not fair. We want the Torah as well. Okay, this is how the Midrash describes it. As a result of that, Moshe Rabbeinu sees that Am Yisrael also have a deep desire for Torah, and that use the same words that it describes Haman's emotions. V'samach simcha gedola. He had an unbelievable sense of joy because he realized that Am Yisrael now were taking on their own volition, they were taking the Torah on. Okay, remember at Har Sinai, it says that Hashem held this kafalem hakagigit, he held the mountain over them and effectively coerced them into taking the Torah. But on Zayin Adar, the day of Moshe Rabbeinu's death, Am Yisrael showed that they wanted it for themselves. Okay, now listen, the Chasam Sofer says that day is a day that is of a higher level even than Matan Torah. Why? Because they took it on themselves. So according to the Chasam Sofer, the Zayin Adar, which is today, she's the happiest day, should be the happiest day of the year. Like it's an unbelievable day. It's the most powerful day. It's the day in which Am Yisrael accepted upon themselves the commitment of Torah. But he says the problem is what? Moshe Rabbeinu died. So it's inappropriate on the day that Moshe Rabbeinu dies to be happy, at least in that kind of way. Okay, so what do we do with that emotion?
The whole thing that if you're completed your life in such a thing, that's why you almost celebrate your child.
Yes, so yes, but it's not the celebration of him. It's a completely independent celebration. It's a celebration of our acceptance of the Torah, which would totally shadow the fact that he passed away. You're with me on that, okay? So therefore, we can't have the celebration on Zayin Adar, which is today. So says the Chasam Sofer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated a whole story, which would happen. How many days after Zayin Adar does Purim happen? Why?
Shiva.
Thank you. After the Shiva of Moshe Rabbeinu, after we've experienced the pain of the death of Moshe Rabbeinu, 7 days later, comes along Purim. And one of the biggest things of Purim is not this whole story only. The story we know about, but at the end, and maybe we're going to look at that, I think, today, is that the Torah, the Megillah speaks about how Bnei Yisrael accepted upon themselves the laws that Mordechai and Esther put into play. And I want to look at that, and then we'll see from that the connection to that and to Zayin Adar. Okay, so that was the story. So today is really a happy day, but it's a sad day. So it's a happy, sad day. Okay, let's go. Or sad, happy day. Okay, so look, if you go to chapter 9, I'm trying to see somebody go. Okay. So if you go into chapter 9, verse number go to verse number 20. Let's start there. So what's happened just before this is they write about the fact that we were able to defeat the enemies on the 13th and the 14th, and that's the whole story. That comes along here. Verse 20. Vayichtov Mordechai et hadvarim ha'ele. Mordechai writes hadvarim ha'ele, which is, the way Rashi says, hadvarim ha'ele is the Megillah kamot shehi. He wrote the Megillah. Mordechai wrote the Megillah as we have it today. Remember, Mordechai was not just a sweet old man. Mordechai was a Navi. He was a member of the Sanhedrin. Mordechai was the most powerful individual that you could ever imagine to meet. So he writes this whole thing as we have it today. So next week, Friday, when you're reading the Megillah, you must understand these are the words of Mordechai, this person that we speak about. It's quite amazing. 2,000 years, thousands of years, more than 2,000 years. It's like unbelievable. It's like mind-boggling. Okay, so Mordechai writes, "V'ito Mordechai dvarim ha'ele, v'yishlach svarim el kol ha'Yehudim asher b'chol midinot ha'melech Achashverosh ha'krovim ha'rechukim." And he sends the svarim, he sends copies to everyone, all the Jews in 127 provinces, both far and near. And what does he tell them to do? Lekayem alehem liyot osim, to lekayem alehem, to establish upon themselves. Liyot osim, to do at Yom 14 lechodesh Adar, the 14th day of Adar, at Yom 15 bo, and the 15th of Adar, b'chol shana v'shana. Mordechai tells the people, you've got to have a special holiday. Why? Because you, sitting in wherever you were, you would have been killed on this day. And since you weren't killed on this day deserves an unbelievable space of recognition of the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have a special holiday. Like the days in which the Jews rested from all their enemies, and the month, and this is so important, it was a month that changed from Yagon is sadness, to Simcha, to joy. And from Avel, from morning to Yontov. So this is the month. The month starts with Yagon, which is the 7th of Adar, because it's Moshe Rabbeinu's Yotzat. It's a terribly sad thing. The Chasam Sofer explains that Moshe Rabbeinu was the totality of Am Yisrael. He wasn't just great. He was the tzura, the form of the Jewish people. Like if you want to know what a Jew was, there's your person. And that's what we all aspire to in some way. And we come in a collective, then we all become a Moshe Rabbeinu, which is quite something. So so it's really sad. But it being moved from Yagon to Simcha, from the sadness to the joy, Ma'eva from the morning to become a Yontiv, La'asot otam, and we have to make them what? And here's the mitzvah. Yemei mishteh v'simcha, days of mishteh v'simcha. Mishteh is drinking, Simcha is joy. Umishloach manot ish l'ra'eyu, and sending mishloach manot. This is the passage where it comes from. It's not like someone made it up, right? Umatanot le'evyonim, umatanot le'evyonim. V'kibel, now listen carefully. V'kibel ha'Yehudim, and the Jewish people accepted. Eit asher heichilu la'asot v'eit asher chatam Mordechai aleim. They accepted it to do it. They were very happy to make a day which would attest to the remembrance of what had happened to them during this difficult time. Why? Because Haman ben Hamdatah Agigi, who comes from the Agagim, in other words, from where? From Amalek. We all know the story of Agag, who was the king of Amalek and that Shaul didn't kill. Imagine that, eh? Thousands of years of people speak about this man Agag. Okay, and who was he? He was the king of Amalek that Shaul HaMelech didn't kill. That's not very good in the schus of Shaul. Just not thought about that now. Can you imagine that? Every year we read the story. The whole history would be different. One silly mistake. Okay, Chashav al Yehudim la'abdam, because he wanted to destroy the Jewish people. V'ipil pul hur agoral l'humam u'lu abadam. What did he do? The whole thing of Purim was to do what? Was to l'humam u'lu abdam, was to totally decimate the Jewish people. We know that. V'avua lifnei hamelech amar im hasefer yashuv machshavto v'ra'an. And then we know that they came and they hung him up on the tree, etc., etc. Al Kain. Therefore, what? You know, to Al Kain, therefore, Kar'u layamim ha'ele Purim. Why do we call Purim Purim? Yeah, because Al Shem Hapur, on the lot. But why don't you call it like amazing? Because what do you call what's the name of Pesach in the Torah? Chag HaMatzot, Chag HaAviv. There's all these names, right? Who calls it Pesach? We call it Pesach. Hashem doesn't call it Pesach. He calls it Chag. He calls it Chag HaMatzot. We call it Pesach, right? So why is that? What do we call what's Shavuot? Zman Matan Torah Teinu. He's called Shavuot. It's like the weeks. Right? Why the names of the Chagim are so important? Why do we call Pesach Pesach and Hashem calls it Chag HaMatzot? What's the ikar? For Hashem, it's what?
For Hashem, it's the matzah and
Because for Hashem, it's what? What is the matzah? What is it? For Hashem, it's the mitzvah. For Hashem, it's the relationship that we build with Him over the fact that we have performance of certain mitzvot that we have to do. It's man matan Torah teinu. We engage with it on that one. He says, Chag HaShavuot, I want you to count 7 weeks. So they're totally different relationship. We call it Pesach because we recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu in it. Right?
So why Sukkot?
So Zman Simchat Teinu.
What mitzvah is that?
The mitzvah of Simcha. That's the ikar mitzvah of the Chag. Okay? So now, and Sukkot is what we remember what Hashem did for us in the Sukkot. Why is Purim called Purim?
Well, Hashem didn't name it. Mordechai named it.
Correct. So what did he name it?
So he named it Purim.
But Pur, after the lot. Surely it should be, I don't know, Hatzlocha or victory, Nitzachon, after the victory over Haman. Why is it called Pur? Why? Purim al Shem Hapur, because of the Pur. Otherwise, what? All the songs wouldn't work. All the songs, yeah, that's right. I agree. All the songs wouldn't work. So why is the Pur? What's the Pur so important? Yom Kippurim. Why is it a day like Purim? I don't know. Do you guys wear? Well, this year we did, right? We have masks. Okay. But why is Yom Kippur like Purim?
It's the revealing of.
But what does Purim mean? Purim means a lot. Yom Kippurim is the day like Lot. It's the day of the which reminds us of the lot.
I think the lot, we can see it as a coincidence type thing in this world.
Okay.
Actually, nothing is a coincidence, and it's all the hand of Hashem.
Okay.
And like maybe referencing.
Keep going.
I'm saying that's coincidence, that lot type thing, but it's actually that's the whole hiddenness of Hashem.
And since it's the hiddenness of Hashem, what?
That we have to engage with it to reveal it.
So there's your answer. It's the weeness. The importance of the Pur is that without the Pur, where would Am Yisrael have been? This whole story happened for one reason only. Because of the Pur. Because of the lot. Because Haman stuffed it up. He got all excited. That's what I told you right at the beginning. He got all excited about the fact that there was the Pur. What he didn't realize is that the day of the Pur that he fell out was actually the greatest day of Simcha for the Jewish people. And actually, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was orchestrating a whole story that would happen 7 days later in order for them to celebrate, says the Chasam Sofer, to celebrate Zayin Adar. Our 14th of Adar is a celebration of Zayin Adar. The Pur is the thing that needed to happen in order for this whole story to unfold itself, to ultimately lead to the point of Purim, as we understand it today. Okay. the point of the Pur is that without the Pur, there wouldn't have been the tshuva of the Jewish people. If Haman had not done what he did, which would have led to Esther, and that's the whole hiddenness, lead to Esther doing her thing, and Mordechai doing his thing, and Bnei Israel fasting for 3 days, and all these things, what would have happened to Am Yisrael? We would have disappeared. Because why? We ate from the plates of the Beit HaMikdash. We thought there was no hope anymore. There was nothing going to happen anymore. The Pur kind of like revitalized the Jewish people.
Can I ask a very important question?
Of course.
Apparently, the story of Purim takes place over a period of 9 years. Is that correct?
From the beginning.
Yes,
Something
from
like
the
that, yes.
beginning. So I'm saying.
With the party and then Esther and then, yeah.
Yes. and
Something like that.
He died,
Yeah.
like being killed and all of that.
So I read somewhere it took 4 years to find, for him to
5
find
years.
Esther.
Yeah, it's 5
Yeah.
years for him
Yeah.
to find Esther, something, maybe 4, whatever.
Interviewed all the, what?
Yeah, apparently
how many
that's-
people he went
I
through.
heard a thing that said like it took that long, and we read it as like one little story that's
It's like 5 minutes,
but
yeah.
it's like you don't ever understand what's going on in your life until like a certain point where like all those other details make sense.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Which I thought was stunning.
Very
My
nice.
point being, this section that you're talking about now with Esther fasting, Esther doing what she did, getting the Jews to fast, Mordechai saying, and like, did that all happen from Zion until Purim?
No. That's the next. This is, he does the Pur. When does he do the Pur? I think in this, I can't remember. So
Yeah.
that's a year. That's like a year process. That's a year process, around a year.
But he does this Purim.
He does the Pur, and it falls out for the next year. And then they've got the
He
year,
needs
they've got,
time to build the gallows. Also.
That's what I'm wondering. Like,
Yeah.
what was the time frame of this?
it's not like 5 minutes. No. It's not.
How everything is, how it's all exactly how Hashem wanted to be. That is why still 2,000 years later we're talking about the king that wasn't killed. But wasn't it a silly mistake that he wasn't killed?
Yes.
He wasn't killed because we're supposed to still be thinking about him
So that's
not
interesting.
being killed.
So that's interesting because like the mitzvah was for you saying that Shaul did it, like the madness of not killing him was actually like godly inspired. Jeez, that's interesting.
No, but I'm saying it's not happenstance. That's exactly the point. Like,
If he was, yes, he was, that is what he was, it was the mitzvah to kill him. But if he was supposed to kill him, he would have killed him.
Because that sounds like Adam and Eve.
Yes, but apparently he was supposed to tell, but apparently that is what was supposed to happen.
Okay.
Everything was supposed to happen.
Yes.
But I think it goes back to choice. You have choice.
Yes and no.
Like what we're saying is what you're saying is did Shaul really have the choice?
Yeah, I have a problem.
That's very hard. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I think it's an amazing idea.
Then,
I struggle with what you
but
said.
I don't know, but then why is this any different?
Because if it wasn't Shaul that didn't kill Agag, then it would have been someone else, or somewhere else Amalek would have come through.
Or would he have?
something.
Or maybe
Or
not.
would he have? Or would that have been the destruction
Or
of
maybe
the
he
memory of
would have
Amalek?
lived in the wonderful land of Gan Eden for
Exactly.
eternity if Sarah hadn't done.
Yeah.
now,
No, we wouldn't be drinking this coffee. We'd be drinking,
What?
there was another thing that
I don't know.
noticed.
wouldn't be Seattle, it would be like Tel Aviv.
But I'm saying there's another thing that I noticed that Hanukkah 8, right, which is a reference to Haman already at the time of the sin. I'm saying the fact that Shaul didn't kill Agag, like, I mean, is that not actually from the beginning where that's brought in with like Haman's referencing there that like it's still.
Yeah, but that I don't know if that Gemara means that. I think that Gemara means that you can find everything, but it depends on. See, I mean, I understand is that we make choices. Like we're living in this world, and then you at every moment there's a choice. So right now we have a choice. You're going to be sitting here. We could be somewhere else. Tomorrow morning you have a choice. You could be coming to shul or not coming to shul. I'm not trying to guilt you. I'm just saying. Okay.
Books, okay?
So what I'm saying is that you're sitting here at this moment. Exactly. You have a choice to decide what you're wanting to do. If you choose X, right? So then that's why I had to put that I was coming to the shir, because maybe I would choose not to, right? If you choose X, then a whole thing has already been mapped out for your choice of X and Y and Z and A and B and C. It's all mapped out. That's what I think. That's what it's saying. that Haman min HaTorah mina and Hamin HaEtz, that there is this concept that will exist with Haman. Do you have to activate the concept? No. That's your choice. That's what I'm saying. I think that had Agag been killed, then I don't know if there would have been a Purim story. I don't know if there would have needed to have been a story. The whole world would have changed. I'll give you an example. Rav Aviner says, listen to this amazing, believable idea. Rav Aviner says that, this concept of your bashert. Okay, beautiful concept, fantastic. 40 days before you're born, and this child screams out, this one's going to marry this one. How do you know you made your bashert? I don't want to start trouble with anybody's relationship, but how do you know? You don't know. The reality is that you don't know. Because what your bashet means is that you're going to marry the person that's perfect for your neshama. Okay? But at the point in time when you meet the person that you have married, were you the perfect person to find that perfect person for your neshama? I mean, Natalie once told me that
No, but there are amazing ways how that can play out.
Agreed. But Natalie once told me that the Rebbe said that you could walk past your neshama, your bashert, and not even know, and not even have any attraction to it. Why? Because you're not there yet, or they're not there yet. So if that's the case, here you meet Ashley. Okay, is he your bashert? You don't know. You have no clue. The reality is none of us know who our bashert is. You meet him and you go and you fall in love and everything's fantastic. You decide to get married. But what happens if he's not your real bashert? So Rav Aviner says, and this is the choice issue. Rav Aviner says that under the chuppah, when he says Harei at mekudeshet li, which is the completion of the kedushin, which is the real beginning of the process, he says, kol ha'olam, the entire world, that is every single plant, every single blade of grass, every single fly in the world, changes to accommodate the union of those two neshamas. And the whole world changed. It could have been that you were supposed to, I was supposed to marry, I don't know, Beryl. Okay? No, I would never marry someone. Okay, but because I married Natalie, the whole world accommodated that, and the whole world played itself out in that way.
Yeah.
And all of us changed. Every single thing changed, which is an unbelievable thing because we make a choice, a certain definitive choice, which is I think it's like an amazing idea. And I think that's part of the pur. You decide on something, you move with it. Okay, can we go weiter? Kathy, you're very worried.
It's a very, very big concept.
It's a huge concept.
It's a very difficult one to debate.
It's like if I say you wake up at 6 o'clock and you down straight away, or you wake up at 7:30 and you get distracted and you're done at 11 o'clock and you've missed time, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
That you haven't fulfilled that potential, and that's changing the nature of the world.
Exactly.
So
The Nativ says when you make a bracha, listen to this. The Nativ says you make a bracha on an apple. That's why you can be so OCD. When you make a bracha on an apple or the coffee, whatever, what does the bracha do? Why do you have to make a bracha?
Apparently it blesses all that type of.
I told you this. I told you this a while ago. I remember telling you this. That every Baruch Hashem, someone's listening, right? That every single thing that is connected to that apple or whatever it is that you're making the bracha in, any species, okay, gets a certain level of shefa from it, of like additional boost to it, which is quite amazing.
People haven't been
And the corollary too.
Say again?
People haven't been making broccoli and beefy.
It's just not ever season.
Maybe.
Okay.
So, the Evers have got COVID. Okay, let's go weiter. Okay, let's go. Girls, you're missing the best Fanya. Hey, Lauren and Tanya. Okay. So let's go. As long as you can hear. I don't know, my sister's not here. Maybe I'm scared her. Okay, let's go weiter. Hello, girls. These naughty shit. Okay, let's go. I love it. Yeah, it's true. Okay. Al-Kain kol divrei ageres azoi sumara u al-kach al-ma hagia aleim. So they've got this whole thing of what happened, and we understand Purim. Then the next verse, and this next verse is the key to everything that I've started to say from the beginning. It is for the naughty girls at the back there, chapter 9, verse 27. You need to see this verse. You need to see the pasuk, because when you see the pasuk,
My memory is not that good, Rob. You are saying now that Haman set this Purim for the Zayin Adar.
for Zayin Adar,
And he didn't realize that this was going to actually be very.
well, he didn't realize what it was. It was the fundamental day of the Jewish people's acceptance of Torah as they were about to go into Eretz Yisrael, without being forced or coerced to do so by HaKadosh Baruch Hu holding the mountain over their head. Okay.
And that, if he had done it on a different day, may not have played out in the Purim story as
He could have, because we don't know. But it fell on that day, Dafka. It's Dafka on that day. So the Dafka part is very important.
And then Kippurim,
The Kippurim link is that it's about tshuva, it's about change, it's about seeing things in a different way. Okay, you ready? Now let's look at this. So the pasuk says, I want you to look inside the pasuk, because you will see something very important. Oh, that's nice. I'm going to teal them that now. Okay. Yeah, after three, it's nothing. Yeah. Okay. So says the pasuk, Kimu. Look at the words. You have to look in the words. I don't know how it's written in the art scroll, but it says Kimu, which means to establish. Now, how is it written? How's that next word written? Do they write it as Kiblu?
No.
Kuf bet lamed.
Yeah.
So, and we read it v'kiblu. Kimu v'kiblu. So it's spelt kabel, which is the singular, and it's written kiblu. Sorry, it's spelled kabel, which is singular, and it's read kiblu. You never have it at the end of the word, because it's the way the art scrolls put it is not the way how every other one writes it. But the whole thing is that it's got an u at the end. We read it with an u at the end, which is the plural.
does your thing have a vowel?
Your eyes above, yeah. No, not in the actual Megillah.
Yeah.
In the actual Megillah, it's written Kimu v'kibel.
And what is your?
Okay, we have a number of times in the Torah. It's called a kri and a ktiv. Ktiv is the way it's written, and kri is the way it's read. Okay, kri and ktiv. So the ktiv is kibel, and the kri is kiblu. Just go with me.
How do I know that? I'm going to read that pass down from.
Okay, that's part of the Masorah. Let's see what it says here. Let's see. You'll hear where we're going to go with this. So let's just read it as it's read. Kimu v'kiblu, that they established and they accepted, HaYehudim, the Jews, Aleihem, V'al Kol Zaram, and all their children, V'al Kol HaNilvim Aleihem, and all those who rely on them. In other the way Rashi presents it is that we're talking about the people who in the future will become Geirim, will become converts, V'lo Ya'avor, and they'll never go against it. To do these 2 days, the 14th and the 15th of Adar, as they're written in their specific time, b'chol shana v'shana, every single year. Okay? Now, says the Gemara, why do we say kimu v'kiblu and we spell it kimu v'kibel? Where do you have that from? Where do you know that from? So very good. Vayichan neged ahar. When Bnei Yisrael were about to receive the Torah tells us that what? Vayichan ha'am neged ahar. That the nation camped in the singular. Neged ahar by the mountain. And there Rashi says, Ki ish echad b'leiv echad. As one man with one heart. Okay? Vayichan, spelt in the singular. Meaning in the singular. Here say Chazal, Kimu v'kiblu, this word kibel reflects the same word as Vayichan. It's the singular as an entire people. They accepted upon themselves, because when kiblu means that each one did it on their own way. But no, in this way, the entire people accept upon themselves what? To do Purim. No, say Chazal. It wasn't to do Purim. It was to reconnect totally to the words of the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Which is what happened. What happened? Where did that happen? That happened on Zayin Adar. Remember? Zayin Adar, hundreds of 1,000 years before this, Bnei Israel accepted the words of Moshe Rabbeinu freely. They did it again on Purim. Says the Chasam Sofer, you know why? because this is the only day that Hashem set aside, Purim, as the celebration not only of the miracles of Purim as we understand it, but it's a celebration of the acceptance of the Jewish people of the Torah on their own. That's why it's such a big day. It's not just because of the miracles that happen. Do you know how many miracles happen for us all the time? Just think about it. Do we have a celebratory day on the day? I mean, it's interesting. On the day that the World War II ended. Do we even know what day World War II? I don't.
Well, the Jews don't, but I'm sure the secular will.
Yeah, but we don't. Our whole thing is never forget, right? Never forget.
No,
What?
we do have a day that marks Yom HaShoah. We do have that.
It's not a celebration day.
Yeah.
Why don't we celebrate the day the war ended?
Because only people die.
But we weren't decimated. We've died all over throughout history. We've died. I'm not trying to belittle it. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, it's a celebration because it's more than just the celebrations of the fact that we stopped being killed. There's a much deeper thing behind Purim. One second. There's a much deeper thing behind Purim, and that the celebration of the life of the Jewish people, of a physical life of the Jewish people. You know, we always say the difference between Hanukkah and Purim is that Purim is where physically we were saved, and Hanukkah spiritually. But no, it's much bigger than that. Purim is, if you're only saved physically, just to carry on doing exactly what you're doing before, so then what's the point, right? Because that's not the point. The point is kimu v'kiblu. The kimu that they were saved and they were accepted. Give me 1 second. I just want to tell you the story. When I was preparing this, the story just shot into my mind. Remember the tsunami, that terrible tsunami? So one of my congregants in Cape Town was there at the time. There were a number of them. A couple of them died. But one was there. So where was he? They had gone out on the morning. They had gone out to one of the islands off, I don't know, that area. Okay. Gone out to one of the islands. So they go out to one of the islands. They were messing around there. People weren't feeling so well. So they didn't go into the water in the way they normally would have. They did everything around the island. Eventually they stopped doing what they're doing. They get up onto the boat and they're coming back. And as they're driving back, or floating back, wherever you do on the boat, right? They see this wave, okay? They hear the wave is there. They're behind the wave, smashing the whole area. Can you imagine the trauma of that? I mean, it's unbelievable. So these guys are sitting and watching this tsunami play out. And the water under them is still. It's like nothing. And this whole just decimation in front of them. So he told me the story. So I said to him, this is the story. Yeah, you just got saved. Physically, you're saved. This guy never came to shul. Okay, came to like once, maybe once every third Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so I said to him, so what are you going to do with that? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, Hashem saved you. You 5 minutes. If you had left 5 minutes earlier, you would have been one of the boats on top of the hotel, right? So what are you going to do about it? He says, well, watch it. I said, well, just start coming to shul. That day, from that day, kimu v'kiblu. From that day, he came to shul every single Shabbos. Hasn't missed a Shabbos since then. From a guy never ever came to shul. He's got new friends, he's got new connectors. Like, it's unbelievable, right? That's the concept of kimu v'kiblu, is that the physical saving is not sufficient. There has to be something more than that. There has to be a spiritual, connection outside of it. It's got to be ruchni as well. To say that Purim is just simply the saving of the Jewish people in a physical way is very shallow. And that's why it's the celebration of the Zayin Adar, 7 days before, 1,000 years or however many years it was before, when Moshe Rabbeinu accepted it. So it's a play out that HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated for us to have a day in which we can celebrate the concept that we accepted the Torah. Say again? So you need to start liking Purim for its real term. Now, having said that,
And you don't have to like the dresser.
no, you're now having said that, let's understand what those things are. What's our time? We've got 15 minutes.
Can I just ask quickly one question? You know how Abraham, the Avot celebrated Pesach and so was Purim also, was Purim celebrated or whatever, acknowledged before?
That's interesting. I don't know. That's a great question. Imagine Abraham in his dresser. Dressed up as Sarah. That's a good question. I don't know. So now let's understand. So yeah, dressed up as himself. Yeah. So now let's understand. Maybe dressed up as Terach, his father, with all the avodah zarah. So the dress up is a nonsense. It's all a minhag that some people don't agree with. But let's understand what the real mitzvahs now are, having understood this. What are the mitzvahs of the day? So number one, you've got to read the Megillah twice. But it doesn't say you must read it twice. It's an amazing thing. It says we started last week. Read it in the night and learn it in the day. Comes along the Shulchan Aruch, and the Shulchan Aruch says, you've got the Su'udah story. You know what you're supposed to do before your Su'udah? You're supposed to learn. Why? So that your Su'udah will have a mahut, what's the word? Like a context that is real and that is deep. Why do you have to learn Torah? Because Kimu v'Kiblu. We've got to start bringing. We get this thing so wrong. We get it so wrong because we get so involved. Okay, so
what do we do at the Friday?
I'll get you, and I'm getting there. So that let's get to the technicals, then the basics, then we get to the technical. Okay, so number one, understand what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do at the Su'udah? You have a normal Su'udah like we always eat, but something else you're supposed to have. What are you supposed to drink? Why do you drink wine? Because of Mishteh, right? Because that's when you have it. Why? But now let's go one step deeper. Let's go one step deeper. What's wine?
Wine is the most whatever
because according to what seems to be many, what was the fruit that they ate from the eights? Was a grape. Hamin ha'etz. Got it? It's not pashut. Hey, it's part of the tikkun. Everything's part of the tikkun. Everything we do is part of the tikkun. The thing about wine is the Mishnah tells us in brachas, right, that you've got certain brachas that you have to make on a tree, right, on the fruit of the tree. Barei priya eitz. Except for, says the Mishnah, except for yayin, except for wine, because on wine you make barei priya gafen. Now that's bizarre. I'll tell you why. Because wine does not grow on trees.
But when you're eating a grape, you say barei priya eitz.
Exactly. So you say barei priya eitz on a grape, but you say barei priya gafen on wine. Why would you say barei?
You drinking orange juice, you say
Shakol.
Pure orange juice.
Depends on the orange. It's a whole story. It depends on why the oranges were grown. It's a whole thing. No. Shakol.
I mean, even back to
Okay. Because once it's already been processed, then unless the oranges.
You can see the pulp and you can see the.
It depends on the pulp. So we haven't got. I don't know the broccoli. We'll have a show on the broccoli. But hold on. So the point is that you make this barei priya gafen on wine, but gafen is not the fruit of the vine. The fruit of the vine is the grape, because the essence of the grape is the wine. Because the grapes were created for us to understand that in order to get the goodness out of things, you've got to sometimes crush them. That's the story of Purim. Bnei Yisrael are crushed to a point, and because they're crushed, what happens? They do tshuva and then kimu v'kiblu. It's the whole process. Okay, what's the purpose of mishloach manot and matanot le'evyonim? It certainly is not for people to have lots of sweets and chocolates before Purim. I mean, before Pesach. Exactly, it's to cause animosity. No, she's being facetious because that's what happens. This one's giving this, and this one's giving that, and then the halacha is simple. The Rambam brings it down. The halacha is you got to give. I think I've told this before, right? Give two foods to one person. That's the halacha. A woman should give to a woman, a man should give to a man, families give to families, but if they are, then it should be 4 foods, one for the men, one for the women. It's all that, right? That's why that whole elaborate thing is unnecessary. You can give a beautiful bread and a lovely roast. That's ridiculous. Okay? Why? Because the Rambam says that you know what you should do? You should spend more money on matanot le'evyonim. And Dafka Rav Rimon brings down this year, what you should be doing is you have to put more money into your matanot le'evyonim. Give one mishloach manot, fulfill your mitzvah. Right? Give the money to matanot le'evyonim. Because that's the essence. Why are those things? Hold on, let's go. Oh, listen. Let's go in here. Listen carefully. Why is that so important? Why are mishloach manot and matanot le'evyonim so important? What's the purpose of mishloach manot? To do what?
You actually meant to get someone that you don't like, or like.
Well, that would be the ideal. That would be a lekker thing to do, right? To bridge gaps, to create what?
Connection.
Put that into what we've just learned.
The singular in the plural.
To create kibel.
Wow. Is that why the word is inspiring?
Because
What?
that the shul is doing it as I give you, you get a name.
Yes, so to create a community.
I mean, there's nothing else we can do, so we've got to come
I
up.
don't know though, because if it's not so made.
No, that's why there's a limit there. It says 80 rand limit.
I never saw that.
I know, that's why I told him to make it a bit bigger, but
And I'll tell you what else I like, there's one, so you're fulfilling your mitzvah by doing it.
done 80 rand, you've done your mitzvah. But so what do? So you got to give something for the Suda. So you know what you could give? Remember, now we go to the Suda, the technicalities of the Suda. What are the technicalities of the Suda? You have this year it's different, right? Because it's the Erev Shabbos. So there are two opinions. The one says you can have it and go, it's what's called Pores Mappa, which means that you eat in the afternoon, and then as Shabbos comes in, they drop it. Everything's on the same day. This year, it's unbelievable, right? The whole world's on the same day. The whole world on the same day. Hey? Unbelievable, huh? Okay? The whole world is celebrating Purim. But so the one way is to do it in the afternoon. We don't do it that way. Rav Rimon is clear that our minhag is not to do it in the afternoon. Our minhag is to do it as the Ramah brings it down, that you should do it in the morning. So you can do it whatever you want. It's your Suda, whatever you feel. So you could have a breakfast, right? Just have a breakfast. So you could give a bottle of milk and Cocoa Pops. You fulfilled your mitzvah. Done. Or you want to give something healthier, you could give, a Frangelica's muesli, I don't know, whatever you want to give. Okay? It's up to you. But that's the mitzvah, is to give something for the Su'udah. Okay? And when you've done it, it's done. Then you eat your Su'udah. And that's the thing, is that reality is that those big things with all the chocolates and the sweets and all that junk is very on the borderline, not fulfilling the mitzvah. Because if the mitzvah is for the Suda, then you got to give for the Suda. It's in my communications coming out today, please God. Okay.
Could we essentially, and you can definitely think about it, you know how to read the Megillah?
Say again?
You know how to read the Megillah?
Me, no. Oh, because you want to have a break.
Megillah, whatever, and a Suda around here with the thing. And
would be
in the Torah, you got them.
Yeah, ideally we would do it, but you're not allowed to have social gatherings right now. Yeah, you could do it. You could do it. I mean, you're not really allowed to legally, so I wouldn't do it. I mean, you could do it. I don't know. I didn't do it. It's the most bizarre, stupid concept that you can go to the restaurant, but you can't have like a safe place which is much bigger than a restaurant. No, I'm saying I agree with you, but
Wow, but if you make it a religious gathering,
with 10 women without all the alcohol, it would probably be okay. But for three men with half a bottle of whiskey and you're done. There's not a chance. There's social distancing. Okay, so those are the things. So all this whole story of Megillah is about much more than we think. And if we put that focus on the mitzvahs of the day, then the mitzvahs become different. Then Purim doesn't become a day that you hate. Become Purim a day that's great.
You're not driving around the whole
Exactly.
day.
What? That's so stupid.
Crazy.
Can I just ask one question? The kids in Burkina, I know like this is the mitzvah and this is the they let's choose something about giving on that day. And
So then take them around and give money to poor people. What's the difference?
But they're limited. You don't have to give every single person,
Exactly.
every single thing. Limited to 5 or limited to 3. Our total kids that are allowed 3. That's it.
Guys, my battery's going. I'm going to switch off. God bless. Have a beautiful Shabbos, guys. We'll see you. I don't